critical infrastructure in the age of data-driven warfare. This is, we're going to attempt to address one of the most pressing challenges in modern defense, and that's the resilience of our digital infrastructure. This is critically important in the digital age. Today, warfare extends well beyond just traditional battlefields into the cyber realm. We talk about, conflict below the threshold of war. We talk about the gray zone operations. But adversaries like China's state-sponsored group, Typhoon, have infiltrated U.S. critical infrastructure significantly. And the Russian APT-28 has infiltrated and exploited infrastructure in Europe. Both of these actors have exploited and impacted energy, transportation, and communication sectors. They've employed novel techniques to maintain persistent access without detection. This is scary stuff. These intrusions are not hypothetical. These are real. These have happened. These have been reported. They have been detected. They present a strategic effort to pre-position for potential disruption of essential services during the time and choosing of our adversaries. That, to me, is well beyond espionage. I would argue, personally, my own personal opinion, that should be considered an act of war, because that is what the purpose is, to disrupt activities. In the context, concepts like zero trust principles, the concept of minimizing the impact of the adversary in your network, air-gapped, immutable backups, and rapid recovery protocols are not merely just basic IT practices. They are essential components of our national defense strategy. The ability to minimize the impact, quickly recover, and maintain operations in the face of cyber attacks is crucial to retaining our strategic advantage. So with that as a backdrop, I'd like to take a minute. We have, and we called an audible. I know you all were looking diligently at the agenda today, but we have an additional person up here, so to help round out our thought up here. So we have three very experienced and knowledgeable experts to help dive deeper into these issues and answer your questions. And I'd like to first introduce Major General Armin Fleischmann, who's sitting in the middle of our fireside chat here, but he's a distinguished leader in military cyber operations and currently the commander of the Cyber and Information Domain Support Forces and Deputy Chief of Staff for Capabilities at the Cyber and Information Domain Command of the German Bundeswehr. So thank you for being here today. He was trained on both electronic warfare, reconnaissance officer, and IT in the German Air Force. And over the course of 4 decades, he held a range of senior leadership positions across the Bundeswehr and in the Ministry, or the Federal Ministry of Defense. Most notably, Armin played a role in the establishment of Germany's Cyber and Information Domain Command in 2017, and he served as the inaugural division head of the Planning Division. His career definitely reflects a sustained commitment to integrating cyber capabilities into the national defense structure, shaping digital strategy, and enhancing interoperability across the domains. So thank you for being here. I would offer a quick moment if you had any opening or introductory remarks.
Okay. Paul, so good morning. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. From let's say from the German part or perspective, I think securing critical infrastructure is very important. Please bear in mind, in Germany we have an own service established in 2017, like Army, Air Force, and Navy, for cybersecurity. And we secure, but only our own infrastructure. So only the defense infrastructure. And we work together directly, together with the governmental infrastructure. So it belongs in Germany to the Ministry of the Interior, and they manage the total securing critical infrastructure in Germany together with us. So we take and we cope the defense infrastructure. And therefore we have a lot of units, but later on I can tell you something about CERTs or mobile incident response teams or something else. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And we're just great to have him here. He flew all the way from Germany just for this panel. Well, you were on a panel yesterday too, so I can't say that, can I? All right. I'm also pleased to introduce Dr. Ed Harris, sitting to my immediate left here, a seasoned leader in cybersecurity space and a global director of information security at, I'm going to get this wrong again, Mauser. I was tracking. Mauser Packaging. Currently the sole provider of ammunition boxes to the U.S. Department of Defense. He has over 33 years of experience in network and information security. He holds a Doctor of Information Assurance in Cybersecurity and is a certified information system security professional. He spent 12 years in academia teaching computer security at the University of North Carolina. And he's a founding member of the Retail Cyber Information Sharing Center. He currently serves on the Cybersecurity Scholarship Review Board for ISC2 and is an active member of FBI InfraGuard, all important in information sharing activities. Now, beyond his technical roles, Dr. Harris has contributed to national security efforts as a former member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's National Security Council. He's a public speaker, an author, and has spent over 3 decades sharing his expertise at both academic and professional forums around the globe. So it's great to have you here, and you did fly in just for this panel. So thank you for that. We appreciate having you here, and I would offer you some opening comments if you have.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for the introductory remarks. We talk about critical infrastructure. And as a society, we have certain expectations that it's always there, it's always up and running, we depend on it, we don't think about it. You turn on your light switch and energy is there. You turn on your faucet and there's water. There's always food at a grocery store. These critical infrastructure spaces, and there are 16 of them, and we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail. But they are the foundation for everything that moves forward in this country. Defense industrial base, that's a critical sector. Nuclear energy, that's a critical sector. And when these things become threatened with constructs like an APT threat like Vault Typhoon, which we know is perpetuated by the People's Republic of China, that affects our nation, it affects our ability to deliver services, and it affects American families. And so the critical protection of these capabilities and sectors are important, and we're certainly going to talk about that in a little bit more detail today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And calling an audible this morning, we have with us Christine Stropke. Is that close enough? I think I missed the last emphasis there. But she is here with us. She has 16 years in cybersecurity. She's head of public affairs for SecuNet. She has many assignments at ENISA Advisory Group, EU cyber agency, and many years of activity working with CRITIS, or critical infrastructure, subject matter expert in cyber topics. And she's on our board of directors and XCOM for AFCEA and Bonn chapter. So welcome, Christine. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I would also offer you some opening comments.
Thank you very much for the spontaneous opportunity to step on this panel. I'm very happy to support in this subject, as I have been very active in looking into the smaller companies which also belong to critical infrastructures or are an extremely important part in the supply chain. And I learned over the 16 years that we are very much in our bubble, and we know very well what to do, and or we know who to ask or who could help. But when you really go out of this bubble and you speak to the company head or the founder of a small company, are you working digital? They are saying, no, I only use WhatsApp. And it really brings you back to the ground to speak to the people, and there we see that we really have to do prevention, education, and we are lacking far behind than we think outside of our bubble. But I go deeper into that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just a note to the audience, we're going to provide some time at the end for questions, so please prepare your questions as we start off with some discussion to get us started. All right, I opened a little bit, but I'd like to just start talking from a threat perspective, just as we align our thought process here. But I mentioned Volt Typhoon, Chinese actors. We talked about some specific Russian activity. We saw what happened in Ukraine prior to offensive operations there. So these have been described as pre-positioning campaigns. They are definitely meant to enhance other activities, not just cyber activities, but other physical activities. How do you interpret that threat in the context of mission assurance for your respective business, for military? And then I'd like to, in your answer, if you could talk a little bit about where on the spectrum of conflict you think these aggressions fit a little bit, if you have an opportunity. But let's go right down the line, because I think this applies to all of us.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, there's a concern. How well are we prepared to do battle on this particular front? And when it talks about disruption of critical services, if you think about it, we have our soldiers. They're out fighting in the fields. They're doing battle on all fronts. The next battle we know is going to be digital. It'll be electronic. There's always going to be a component of that. But if I were to go and want to attack another military, should I go in through the front door where it's most fortified, or should I try to find a way around that? I'd probably focus on a way to attack their family. What better way to do that than disrupting some of the things that affect families? Can you imagine going into the battlefield and you're worried about your spouse and children at home? That changes the mindset of the warrior when they're thinking about doing battle on the battlefield, and they're thinking about the battle that's also going on at home, and the war that's being waged there. By not having basic services, we depend on energy. We depend on electricity to make sure that our refrigerators stay running, so that the milk stays cool for the baby and the food stays fresh. When you look at that, I think when it comes to that type of capabilities and that level of disruption, there's an impact, and it's not frontline battlefield, even though it's becoming frontline, but it is certainly attacking families. And there's a critical mission value that can affect soldiers out on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think the attacks Paul mentioned, and I fully agree with you, Ed, with your statement, should be a wake-up call for us. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very important. We saw it in 2015 when our government was attacked by the Sophist group, APT-28, from Russia. We saw it, or we see it just now every day, especially when Germany announced that we assist or support the Ukraine armed forces. Every day we will get distributed denial of service attacks on our infrastructure. We can mitigate it, no problem, but it's tremendous. And on the other side, we see a lot of high sophisticated phishing emails or something else to our families, to our critical infrastructure, and the whole spectrum. And this is very difficult at the moment. So from my point of view, in the cyber domain, we are at war.
I could come up with some interesting statistics from Germany. There's an annual review done by the German Digital Association, Bitkom, on the attack on companies, all kind of companies. 8 out of 10 have noticed an attack on their infrastructure. 8 out of 10 companies all over Germany. And the damage is measured at around 280 billion to recreate, to recover for the companies in total. The image damage, not to mention, and so I think this is critical, and I can fully underline we are in a maybe pre-stage of war.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then maybe we take this into perspective, but we often say that modern warfare, and I would argue our business operations, right, our government, our daily provider of critical infrastructure services, but it runs on data, right? We are a digitized world now, and we're not going back, and so to be running on data, what does that actually look like operationally? And then how can you give us some concrete examples of how dependencies might manifest in the field or in the supply chain or some vectors that we might want to be concerned about? I'm gonna go the other way, Christine. So you're first. We'll come back this way.
Thank you. I think we underestimate that in companies the know-how in cybersecurity is very low. Especially the smaller a company is, the less they are prepared because they don't have their own IT department. Mm-hmm. And the manager of the founder of a company, he's an expert in what he's doing and not in IT. So he relies fully on his service provider. And also these service providers are usually from the region. The larger companies, the better they can prepare, the better they can make their setups with their own cyber experts. And I think this is something where we really have to look at. We need more prevention. We need to support them in preparing or being better prepared when it comes to attacks. Mm-hmm.
One example you mentioned is supply chain. And when you take care of the supply chain, for example, in Germany we are using SAP. SAP needs a data center. Whenever you destroy, let's say, or infiltrate the data center, you can stop the supply chain of forces, for example. And this is very important. And it's not only to stop the supply of forces. It has a lot of implications. And the same is whenever you create ammunition. For ammunition, you need a lot of different things. And when you stop in between the supply chain, you cannot produce anymore any ammunition. So it's very difficult, and you have a lot of contractor in between. So the supply chain, I think it's the most important thing in securing critical infrastructure, especially for military.
I think you copied my paper. So I'm going to start from the perspective of being in that supply chain and then working my way up. So yes, our company, Mauser Packaging Solutions, we are the sole provider of ammo cans to the American military. So from a production perspective, let's work our way from the third party. We are the third party supply chain. Let's work our way forward. So an example, we're a manufacturing company. We make delivery systems. We have IoT sensors. We have vibration control, operational speed and of robots and manufacturing. If these sensors fail to collect data, or if the system is disrupted, the plant can't predict when the machine needs maintenance. That leads to breakdowns. It leads to costly repairs and production delays. How detrimental is it to delay the production of an ammo can to get it into the hands of those who need it in a timely manner? So data-driven dependencies are critical for my business, because not only does it help me know when I can bring my machines down and do my repairs in a timely manner, my preventative maintenance, but it ensures that my machines stay running so that I can produce our products that our American military needs. Mm-hmm. And that it affects efficiency, it affects cost savings, and it affects business continuance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this tees up a next next line of questioning, I want to talk about readiness, because I think this is the threat is there. We are a data-driven society, a data-driven world. Cyber networks are vulnerable, so part of this is adopting to our new environment. There's a cultural shift that we have to make, right? And so let's talk about what is readiness a little bit. So, I opened a little bit with zero trust principles, air gapping, immutable backups, recovery, being warfighter requirements. But from your perspective, what distinguishes organizations that are truly resilient from, and not just the ones that think they are? Because I think culturally people are still just spinning the wheel and hoping that it's going to happen to somebody else and not them. So if you could comment, and Ed, I'm going to start with you first.
Yeah, the name of the game from a resiliency perspective is practice, practice, practice. Our militaries, they drill for a reason, to be prepared, and to be prepared at all times, and to be prepared for nearly every scenario that we can dream up. We dream up use cases all the time. We go out and we practice it. My sister works for Homeland Security for one half of the state of Colorado. One of the things that they do is they prepare for an outbreak. They rented a town and an airport and drilled on how to administer vaccinations in the event of a catastrophic outbreak of some sort. So practice, practice, practice. That gets to the heart of it. But speaking of the data-driven component of this, how is the mission affected if you have to run on that backup or some form of resilience? Have you given that some consideration? Have you ever thought about, well, I don't have a tank to move out in the field. What if I have to use my backup tank? Have I practiced with my backup tank? Is it different than my production tank? And tank is, maybe I should use ammo cans because that's what we're good at. But the fact of the matter is what does the mission look like when it's running in its disaster recovery capability? Are their capacities diminished? Does everybody know what to do in the disaster recovery, in the business continuance scenario? Again, practice makes all the difference. How are you testing these recoveries? It's not enough to just simply have a backup. Are you testing your backups? Are they immutable? Are they safe from being encrypted by ransomware? And it's not enough just to simply back it up and restore it. What if you have to do a full bare metal restore? What if you have to kick over to your resilient systems? Are they the same resilient systems that you would normally have in production? Because it looks a little different and it feels different, because generally it is different. But again, practice, practice, practice. That differentiates companies who talk about it and are about it.
I would like to start with a statement. Nobody is secure. Nobody. So I think there are a lot of exploits what we don't know up to now. And in general, I think you are, let's say, I wrote a paper, so you are about 200 days, you feel secure, but you are not secure. And from my point of view, whenever we have, you mentioned distinguished organizations, probably, I think especially military is more resilient than the others because we have own organizations. I think this is very important, and we take care of it. So especially, for example, in Germany, in our cyber information domain, we have about more than 15,000 people working on CIS, intelligence, cybersecurity, and so on, only for the armed forces. And we have a similar approach also in the government, but with much more, because we have a huge industry, and they take care of it. And the civil organizations, for example, I think one of the best resilient industries is the chip industry. I met a company, Global Foundries, in Dresden, and I saw they have an own securities, they have own towns, they have security mechanism, they have a risk management, they do all, let's say, securing the principles of securing critical infrastructure with cybersecurity measures up to the chip. So it is very fascinating, and they have own power supply, chemicals supply, and so on. So they are really resilient in the case of a blackout or something else, or a hacker attack. But the other companies and industry and on, from my point of view, nobody is secure.
Thank you very much, because this gives me it's a good handover to my point. I would like to go more on the technical side. When we look at critical infrastructures, especially when it comes to electricity, net grid, we have a lot of critical components in the net. And when you talk about readiness, I would I would focus on the availability, a very important thing in cybersecurity. And but who decides what kind of components a privately owned company puts into their net? So are there regulations, or are they free to do? We had a long discussion in Europe about UOY components in the 5G. And but we have not discussed yet that in the renewable energy, like the wind mills and other, there are also critical components, maybe not from fully reliable partners, or at the end reliable partners. I try to do it diplomatic, and we always risk the kill switch. Mm-hmm. So this is not only the attack, but how about if they simply switch off the net when they are in critical components? And I think this is not to underestimate.
So thank you for that. So I heard a little bit in there about exercising I've seen a lot of organizations have plans, and it's written on a piece of paper, but they don't exercise it. And so oftentimes when they do, they find faults and challenges and things that they didn't anticipate in that plan. So I would just make one additional foot stomp that it doesn't matter. It's a practice in the military, but it also should be a practice in the private sector and for our critical infrastructure. Because as someone said, no good plan survives, first contact, if you will. And if you don't exercise, you won't be able to refine that plan to actually make it effective. So I want to get into another aspect of the cultural issue here, because leaders of people, leaders of organizations, leaders within the cyber world and community of interest, relentlessly used to mean that, okay, I am protecting my perimeter as best as I can. So all of my money was on perimeter protection, and if that was breached, I lost it. I lost it all. That's one concept, and it was a concept that probably still exists today. But again, with exercising the backup plans, how do we build and lead teams around that mindset, particularly in complex and maybe even some bureaucratic requirements, and with people that may not understand the cyber domain at large? So these are decision makers that may not understand, because they can't see and touch and feel what's happening, in another network. So talk a little bit about how do we build and lead teams around that new mindset. Christine, I'll start with you. I'm going to start with Major General Fleischmann in the middle, just because I haven't done that yet.
Okay, so first of all, I think we have to find a comprehensive approach to work together. Collaboration, information sharing, training, awareness building. I think it's very important. In military, we tried to convince all the military leadership together with security measures, security information days, and so we worked together with a lot of activities. We have built in Germany a third computer emergency response teams or mobile incident response teams, and they visit and teach the units. So they go to the units and teach them and bring the information to the guys, to the military leader, and to train, let's say, in phishing tests, all the stuff. And I think this is very important. So in total, it's a comprehensive approach between all, and the main is training. And what you just mentioned, practice.
Mm-hmm. Ed. Oh, thank you. So we understand mission risk. It's ingrained in all of our way of life. If you think about it, you would send a child to the bus stop in the morning. There's a degree of risk of sending that child to the bus stop, and if it's raining, that level of risk for the child has just gone up exponentially. You'd never send your child to the bus stop without a rain jacket. So when it comes to who we are as cyber professionals, affecting our leaders and helping them understand cyber risk, they're not cyber people. They understand the mission that they were hired for. It's the CEO to run a company. It is a general major to come up with an amazing career path. You should read his bio. It's amazing. But unless you were born in the realm of cyber and this is your world and this is what you understand, it is our job as professionals to meet the people where they are and communicate risk in terms that they understand. It's important for me to understand cyber, but you know what? I also have to understand the language of business because my CEO doesn't understand cyber. And my CEO understands cyber, but he's a pretty intelligent guy. But the fact remains is that I need to meet people where they are, where leadership, where they are at, to communicate risk to the business, to the mission. I need to learn how to speak cyber because that's my domain. I need to learn to speak technical networks because I deal with people who deal with perimeter and insider threat. And so as a cyber professional, I've learned to speak many languages. I need to be able to communicate what the threat is to the business, to the mission, in a language that my audience understands. So I need to know my audience. And when I can meet them where they are at and help them understand the threat to the business, the threat to the mission, then I've accomplished the goal of helping them understand that risk. And with that, can then they becoming more understanding of where we might have risks that are internal, that are detrimental to the business or the mission, and then we can affect that level of change internally over time. You're never going to turn a battleship in a moment's notice. It's slow, it's methodical, but it's consistent and it's repeatable.
And if I may add to Ed's information, we have only in Germany 30,000 companies who are now under critical infrastructure regulation. 30,000. So you see, he has a lot to talk, to conversations to take. But one thing is to make them aware about cyber. I think we are now at a stage that everybody knows there are cyber attacks outside. So that is the first point. The second is, okay, I could be a victim, but to really bring them to invest into prevention, I come now to the budgeting. The problem is that they know there's cyber, but they don't invest. And a very nice example, one of our clients are one of the largest water suppliers in Germany, the Berlin Water Company. And when they invested into cybersecurity, I asked them, how did you persuade your management? And they said, I put the costs for the physical fence around their enterprise on the table, and I said, okay, this is only part of what the physical fence costs. So please let invest. And I like these comparisons when you go to the analog world, and that is what they understand, and we really have to get up on the investment. Today, in Germany, we are around the companies invest in 16% of their IT budget, but we should be at a minimum of 25% of the IT budget should be in cybersecurity. So this is the number what everybody is recommending, and so the IT budgets is and really bringing the management into investing into it, not only being aware, investing into it.
Now, I'll just make one additional comment, because I find that exercising is also very effective for changing people's mindset. Exercises show a what if, but they also show the risks and the implications of maybe not doing something or not spending some money to buy down that risk. And showing that to a CEO or showing that to a commander really makes an impression. And so if you're going to help change, I know that's been very effective in the U.S. military in exercises, showing that risk and the impact of that risk through some type of exercise is very powerful. I want to shift our topic, and I'm going to ask one more question, and I'm going to open up the mic for the audience. And believe me, I have many more questions. So if you don't ask questions, maybe we'll call on the audience and ask them a question. Oh, no kidding. But please, if you have questions, get them prepared. But I want to switch the line of thinking here. I know that I feel and I see the role of the private sector in national defense increasing. What I want to do is get a feel, given the importance of these public-private partnerships and their increasing role for national cyber defense, how do we need to think about boundaries, roles, responsibilities between the government and industry in protecting our critical infrastructure? And I'll start with you, Ed.
So the benefits are certainly both indirect with this private and public partnership. And the private sector knows about some of the direct benefits of critical infrastructure, like communications, energy, food and agriculture, water, and waste management, and healthcare. These are the things that affect our families. But indirectly, we also have an indirect understanding that nuclear has some effect on the family and the mission. Critical manufacturing, and global transportation services. You know, it's great to have a television, but do you know what it took to get that television all the way to your house? And so there are critical sectors there that we interact with indirectly. Now, there is value in increasing support for the critical infrastructure, given the contribution of success to both our national cyber defense and the protection of the American family. And you know, when we talk about these protections, it's important to realize that answers are not siloed in any one group. There are answers everywhere. If you understand how it affects you, then you understand that there's a construct that needs to be accounted for. And it should be the focus of our government, not only to ensure the successful support and the mission of a national cyber defense in these critical infrastructure spaces, but to ensure the resiliency at home for our families as well. And that's an important construct when we look at these critical infrastructures and its protection and the value of the public-private sector partnership.
I just mentioned, I think it's a comprehensive approach. In Germany, we have a national security cyber security center, and it's located below the Ministry of the Interior, and it comprises all the stakeholders. So military, civilians, critical infrastructure, and so on. And they work together on a daily basis, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And this is very important. So to be informed, to have a situational awareness picture about the whole infrastructure, where are the attacks, and so on. So the main focus from the military part is to create this situational awareness picture. And this is very, very important, and it's often forgotten to build such capability. So, and in this National Cybersecurity Center, last point, the government has the lead and the military is the deputy. So we work strongly together, and the advantage we have in Germany, of course, we are not so huge like US. It's all located in Bonn, so it's in the vicinity of the cyber information domain headquarters, and this is a very good, so we can go. We have only 1 or 2 kilometers to exchange, also with additional personnel, whenever we need it.
I think with the what you described with the situational awareness is a first step from my point of view. The second is, how do we engage the companies of critical infrastructures into that? These big picture of a daily or weekly situation needs to be pulled down into sectorial analysis, and those analyses need to be transported and sent to the companies of the critical infrastructure so that they can get ready. So we talked about the readiness. And this is something which is important, and we still have to improve from there. Because if those information stay only on the state side, on the governmental side, it is no support for the companies themselves. But additionally, I think you mentioned the PPP, public-private partnerships. I think the state can support a lot. One is in regulation. We know that security always works in regulation. So how far can we regulate? Not too strong, so we should not really damage the company with the regulation, but so that they know what to do. And the other is also to support in prevention. In North Rhine-Westphalia, we have set up a center for SMEs. It is fully paid by the government, by the Ministry of Economy, to support the SMEs. In North Rhine-Westphalia, we have 700,000 companies, and 5,000 of them are critical infrastructure. And that is what the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia can support. And I think we do not always need the large support like the German government. We need to do it on the site, regional, to really approach the right people and the right companies.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd offer the mic to anyone who has any questions. Please, there's a mic in the center of the theater here if anybody has any questions. Okay. Please go ahead. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. John Diedenhofen. I'm the chapter president of AFCIA Las Vegas and also Infraguard, Nevada. So my question is this. You all brought up APT 28. You all brought up Volt Typhoon. One of the things that I found is very handy for educating senior leaders, professional military education, as well as senior executives articulating the financial cost of these things has been the book Sandworm. So from you all's perspective, what do you all see in terms of the continued relevance of Sandworm and specifically APT 4040 as a threat group?
Next.
I think, I come from the private sector perspective. We know today the market for criminal cyber attacks is worldwide larger than the worldwide drugs business. So this is a business. And maybe my colleagues on the panel can answer to the various attacker groups, but it is a large market, and you can buy a phishing attack very easy at the darknet. If you want to attack your competitor in your business, easy to book it. You don't even have to create it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that you can shut down the monetization of these types of attacks, at the end of the day, they're looking to separate the fool from their money, right? Whether you're trying to sell drugs, whether you're perpetuating a spear attack against a particular company, a particular individual, or you're doing a broad nation state-based event, to the extent they don't do this for fun. There's a prize in it. Maybe it's notoriety. Most of the time it's money, because everyone likes money in their pocket at the end of the day. To the extent that we can shut down the monetization of this, I think it's going to be helpful. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, how do you defend against everything? It's impossible. But again, good best practices, patching, regular testing, immutable backups, resiliency. These are things that help us prepare. Bad things are going to happen, and then it's how we prepare to support it moving forward.
To defend such business cases of APTs, I think we have to work together, support each other, intergovernmental. Especially we have a very, very good experience in Germany working together with the FBI or with other police activities to shut down such botnet or APTs and so on. Yeah.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Brian McGee, Coast Guard, Maritime Transportation Cyber Specialist. So private partnerships, government partnerships, information sharing, right? That seems to be a barrier between government and private industry. So government has their reasons for holding back information and the private industry has theirs. What do you see as a good way to start merging that trust and start sharing? That's part one of my question. I'm going to take up all the time now. And then two, when dealing with cybersecurity from a third party, so for example, if an entity uses a platform from a different entity and that gets attacked, that really breaks down the cybersecurity of that particular organization. So I'm just curious to see what your thoughts are on both of those, because we're in the regulatory environment's not really there right now, at least in the U.S., right? So how do we start mitigating those threats?
Yeah. So intelligence sharing, that an interesting topic, because there are certainly constructs within the level of intelligence that gets shared with the private partnership that are not appropriate for public eyes. We understand that. But what about the basic constructs that we can share? People's Republic of China, they don't attack just the U.S. and the U.S. government and the U.S. critical infrastructure. They're also going after specific companies. And they're, to the extent that intelligence sharing that intelligence is gathered and shared and vetted, there's a real value in that level of sharing across the board. But again, to what extent, given the sensitive nature of some of those constructs within the intelligence community, that's certainly one part of it. And then the second example that you spoke of, I mean, that's the Home Depot breach. That's the air conditioning vendor who was compromised and ridden right into the Home Depot network. So that we see those regularly, and as it makes you wonder, at what point, as the contract owning entity, should we force our partners to have a level of risk mitigation built into their security offerings? It's an important construct, but at the end of the day, we want to be our brother's keeper. We need to be our brother's keeper, but I can't force a third party to be responsible from a cyber perspective, though I can write it into contract language. I can protect myself from those capabilities. But it's an evolving landscape of developing that level of communication to understand that if you're going to come in as a third party, you're going to represent my company and provide a service, there are certain guarantees that I need as the acquirer of that service to be sure that you're not bringing the devil in the door.
I think it's important that the public sector and the private sector gets into regular dialogue, because we see that there's a hesitant to exchange experience, to exchange data. So the more you exercise also the dialogue and the exchange of this information, the more trust is given. And I think this is very important, that we trust each other, the private and the public sector. So we had in Europe and in Germany, we had so many regulations the past 2 years on cybersecurity, so that the private sector said, God, stay out. So that was maybe a little bit overdone, but the idea was right. So I think this is important. And then you have a trustful relationship when it comes to an extreme situation. We know that during the COVID time, the hospitals were extremely under attack all over the world. And so we have learned from that. And we should start to, maybe via NGOs, like FCA, maybe via sectorial associations, where you can bring them all together and discuss explicit topics for a special sector. And your question on the platform is very interesting. I know we have this discussion also with SMEs. So is my cloud provider secure? Or should I better keep my data in my company? The question is, who is more secure? Or what is more secure? Maybe the cloud provider has a very, very good cybersecurity implemented, and probably better, because this is their main business, than the company who's doing a hand worker or whatever and has like this IT activities. So that is something you have to weigh about the risk. But usually the platform providers are very good in keeping this security.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would also make an argument that we talk about money investment within the government, but in the private sector, this has to be incorporated into business models. It has to be incorporated into stock valuations. That risk has to be understood, and the cost of that incorporated into the business model. And so how do we, you know what I mean, I'm not asking a question to the panel, but how do we include that cost model to match the risk that we're willing to take? And I think that's an important aspect of this whole thing, both within the government and in the private sector. And it's been a little bit challenging. We've worked through, we have insurance capabilities now, and a lot of companies just want to just pay the insurance company and take the risk. But should the insurance actually give you insurance if you're not meeting the minimum requirements? And so we have to work through those challenges as well. I am going to do one closing round here, and I'm going to give you each an opportunity to answer a question and make some final thoughts. But if you had to prioritize one investment or operational shift that would immediately enhance mission resilience in the data domain, what would that be? And then any closing comments you might have. You have about 2 minutes each. And Christine, I'll start with you this time.
Thank you. I keep it very short. I'm a little bit the ambassador of the SMEs. Education, prevention. But we have to support in this. Thank you.
So when we should invest, I think whenever we implement everywhere cloud strategies or cloud systems, I think we have to invest very heavily in zero trust. So this is very decisive because it's the most advanced security paradigm. And we have to do, I think, a little bit more from identity management to secure all the stack from below to up to software. I think it's very, very important. And let's come a final statement I wanna bring. We discuss here in securing critical infrastructure together with AI. I think AI brings a lot of benefits, but also a danger. And the most danger also for critical infrastructure is, for example, to create deep fakes about things, about personal, about democracy. And this could affect democracies very much. And this is a main point I want to mention. So we have to take care about deepfakes, because at the moment it is very difficult to detect it, to clarify it, and this could bring immense danger also to the people which provide securing critical infrastructure. Thank you.
And I'm going to piggyback off of what you just say as part of my closing remarks, because AI is a direction. So about an operational shift that would have that would enhance a mission resiliency, regardless of the vertical you're in. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, if you're a politician, if you are doing nothing but supporting your family with a home-based business, regardless of what your products are, disaster recovery and business continuity are the shift that you need to invest in. It's making sure that you can recover, regardless whether you're recovering for your family or you're recovering for the vertical that you're a part of. It's immutable backups. It's a regular cadence of not just incident response tabletops, but functional exercises. We run a functional exercise in my company once a year. We fail over to our disaster recovery ERP system and run the company on that. It's not, in the beginning, it wasn't pretty. But every year that we've run it since, it's become better, it's become more resilient. People have had the opportunity to actually undertake the steps necessary to fail the company over in a true disaster recovery scenario. But it's a functional exercise. It's not talking about it about a round table and saying, well, what I think I would do if I were to encounter this type of interaction. We actually are about it instead of just talking about it. Now, and for my closing remarks, certainly AI is evolving. It's becoming faster. It's becoming more resilient. It's becoming more accurate. Quantum speeds are here. Regarding deep fakes, I spoke in a conference in Spain last year where I did a virtual kidnapping in the audience. And I found somebody's profile on Facebook. I got a picture of their child. I was able to get a copy of their voice and their child's schedule from school, and I knew when they were having soccer practice. And I freaked out every parent in the audience. And they were all cyber folks. AI and deep fakes, it's real. The problem is that AI is being now trained on things that aren't real, and so you have to question the data that you're getting out of AI. But for private AI systems, they are becoming more accurate, and they're becoming faster. And our next battlefield is going to include digital level of attacks, and they're going to happen at quantum speeds that we only think about today.
Great.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for, but I would like to thank Christine, General Fleischmann, and Dr. Harris. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the information you're sharing with us. And I'd like to offer, please, from the audience, a loud and thunderous round of applause for these great individuals up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're closing ourselves, so appreciate your time. I'm sure there might have a few minutes available for any questions that you might not have been able to ask. And we'll see you in the main stage here in just a few short minutes for Miss Manning. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
it was
you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Exciting.